Hey Dave, thank you so much for being here with me today, taking some of your time to join me in these important conversations around the ketogenic diet for mental health. We've met at my meetup group where you shared a little bit about your journey and your success story that I thought was so inspiring, that I was excited to invite you to this channel that focuses exactly on success stories like you of people who have overcome significant challenges through metabolic therapies as a lifestyle, being able to get better, feel better, take more charge and responsibility of their health and therefore potentially their whole life. That has been my experience. And so with that, I just want to welcome you and thank you for taking some of your precious time today and willing to meet face to face and discuss this topic, because I think it can inspire so many that are on a similar journey and people that are willing to do this but may have some hesitation or are not sure if it's working. And so that's what we try to do, share our authentic experiences for those that may be not sure yet, just because this metabolic psychiatry field, it's so new. And we know it takes 17 years for therapeutic approach to be approved, and for those who don't want to wait but want to hear stories, lived experiences, I think that might be very insightful. And so thank you again, and welcome to the Transformation Evolved podcast. I would love for us to start with a little bit of background in your story, in terms of where you were generally before you even found keto. What was life like? What was health like for you? Briefly, if you can touch on the things that you resonate with, that again, someone who may be in your shoes can get an understanding of, who that may resonate with them, and what was that for you before keto?
Sure, yeah. Well, thank you also for joining with me to do this and get a message out to people of hope, and thank you for coming to meet me in person. I'm honored to do this. I've not done anything like this before, but I'm dialed in and I'm glad to share my experience. So I think I knew when I was about 5 when my brain worked differently than other people's. Intrusive thinking, maybe. I didn't, I was 5, I didn't know anything. I was just living life. And then, fast forward through school, college, life, and was very athletic and participated in sports and soccer and foot races and triathlons and amateur road bike races. And so I don't know that people maybe knew how I was suffering with, let's just call it metabolic brain disorder at this point. So yeah, they have different names. I feel like saying I think I want to say is that the word disorder or diagnosis, depression, bipolar, schizoaffective disorder, anxiety, depression, attentional difficulties, those are all like diagnoses. And I feel like if you're reading a lot of material, Dr. Palmer's book and Dr. Eads' book, that it seems that those diagnoses have switched and are now symptoms. I think that's a kind of a structural change that I noticed in my reading, and that's a little more comfortable. So now we're talking about, instead of a diagnosis, like you have this depression and anxiety, now it's, you have a metabolic brain disorder, or something's going on in there.
Right, it's no longer that stigma. It's not something that we don't know what it is and oh my gosh, it's scary. Like, no, it's a dysfunction just like diabetes is. It just shows up in the brain symptoms, and there is something you can do about it. That brings it to such more, at least for me, grounded place that we now have control over. It's more normal, less questions and mystery around it, right? So yeah, I love that and resonate with that
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's affirming to hear come back from you. Yeah, it's like my brain and I were in couples therapy for a long time, and keto maybe saved the marriage.
Yeah.
I think I started on medicines in earnest in my late 20s and early 30s. And by the time I got off of the medication, I don't know, 20 or 30 different kinds of medications, not just for depression, but also for some of the side effects from the drugs or other things to manage, drugs that help with anxiety and those kinds of things. And so, I'm just sitting here realizing, wow, that was a lot of drugs to put in your body. And I always thought, hey, maybe they're working. Maybe Paxil's working. Maybe it's doing something for me. Hard to know. So after a bunch of drugs, by the time I think I got to, I was about 40, my health was starting to deteriorate in terms of being being able to be productive in life, to think clearly, to even some days at work were almost impossible to get through. Yes, it's part of the human experience. I'm not saying anything that people aren't experiencing.
Sure.
But I'm just sharing how it has led to where I'm at now. Tried the TMS kind of treatments with a magnet on, and nothing really helped. The reason I know that is because I finally got on the medicine, and I don't mean to focus on medicine, it's just part of the story. It's just I got on the MAOI, and for whatever reason, that actually worked. And so by the time I was in my mid-40s, close to 50, I realized, none of those medicines ever worked. And so I found something that worked until it didn't.
And how long did it work for?
3.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was able to get back in the gym. I was able to exercise more. I could be out, socialize more. I was just a little bit more at ease. It wasn't amazing, but it felt like it was a mathematical problem to solve. And I'll be ever grateful for this doctor. He's retired, Dr. Farberg, and he made it seem like finding the right kind of treatment was just math. And I bought into that because a lot of it's guesswork. Well, almost all of it's guesswork in some way. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's genetic tests and things. I don't know where we are with that kind of technology, how effective and efficient it is at this point. But he made it seem like it was possible. And then I was deeply ingratiated to him for that experience. And then it stopped working. I don't know what happened. That was in the middle of COVID. And it just quit. And I know that a lot of antidepressants and atypicals and SSRIs, SNRIs going on, they kind of have a poop out thing, discontinuation syndrome. And so that happened. So quickly to move a little bit more forward, I was also having a lot of gut distress, bloating, distension. It was a ton of fatigue. Fatigue was my biggest, probably, downfall and complaint. It just never really left me. And it was hard to keep feeling that. And I started to disassociate a little bit because the feeling was so strong. I just was like, I can't feel this anymore. So I was pretty desperate, not ultimately desperate, but I was pretty desperate. And then I sort of staged my own little protest.
I love it.
Yeah, and so nothing was working.
Yeah.
And this was about 2 years ago. And I just said, I don't want to eat. Not forever, but I was thinking like, people protest by not eating and that kind of thing. And I wasn't trying to set any kind of records. I just threw my hands up. I didn't know what to do. The meds weren't working. Food, I didn't know what to do with that. Exercise was doing nothing, and I was miserable. And so I decided to just fast. I was also at this time reading Dr. Ead's work and Dr. Palmer's work. And I think I came across their work it was during COVID, and I was off one day, and I was just scrolling through social media, and and it just came. And then, you know, it's like, what are they saying? This is different.
This is very different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really different. But it was very logical.
Yeah.
The two of them speak so beautifully and concisely and relatably. And while you can sense the passion in their work, they are able to kind of moderate that some and you know, deliver the information in a way that's really palatable. They can get out of their own way a little bit, and so you can take that information on hand and do what you need to do with it. That was my experience of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can so resonate, and it's so interesting that fasting has led you into it. I have very similar experience. So I also did not know about any of that, but kind of fasting was my door towards it. And I think with fasting, I was able to touch it to get into ketosis without understanding it initially. So very similar experience. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so basically what I'm hearing is that there was a lot of desperation, a lot of unresolved issues, years of trying what was out there, potentially sensing a little bit of relief, and that was not lasting as long as you need it. And then you got to familiarize yourself a little bit with that unheard of concept of metabolic therapies that we now live and, you know, breathe kind of. So tell me then, what was that like? Because I know it's very different, and I'm sure that's the part that we all deal with. I know for myself initially it was so hard to think about high fat. It was just unheard of, and also thinking about a diet impacting my mental health. Those two just it was not serious almost, right? And then what was your experience with that? How did you think about keto? Did you trust it? I mean, obviously you read the book, so that offers a lot more safety. But tell us about your experience. How did you feel about it when you learned? Did you trust it? And also, yeah, let's start there.
Sure. I have my friends and my family are an enormous social support for me, and they're on this journey with me. So that's very moving for me to say that, and I'm very appreciative, and I wouldn't be able to be where I am without support like that. So thank you. And the diet I think I was made for this diet.
Yeah.
I worked in science for 20 years as a clinical research coordinator for trials for opiate and alcohol addiction at NIH in Baltimore. And a lot of that is highly nuanced work and getting deep into the weeds around things. So I was already kind of conditioned to get into macros, deeply getting into macros and kind of parsing that stuff out for myself. I don't know that many people would do what I'm doing. I've been recording what I've been eating for about a year and a half. Yeah, probably 80 to 85% of the days. And using scale and measuring. And I did trust it. And I'll tell you why. I trusted because when I was doing this protest, I fasted for 75 hours. And I have a very high metabolic rate, metabolism. I just burn through food, and I always have. And so not eating was like, whoa, I'm gonna shrivel. And I did get thin, and I did get some comments like, are you doing okay? But I knew something was at play. And I was thinking, okay, autophagy, mitophagy, as we learned, those cellular processes. The bloating and the distension in my belly started to dissipate. Not forever, but it did, fasting. And I wasn't really hungry. You know, I'm hungry to feel better, but I wasn't really hungry for food, which is really, really bizarre experience for me. I know a lot of people come to this in a very different place, and I know that weight loss is of paramount importance for many, many people, and I totally get that. I'm coming at from the other side, and a person who's trying to kind of keep weight on. So I'm just acknowledging where other people are coming from.
Sure.
That's why I say that. So then I thought, all right, I need to eat a lot more fat. How do I do that? And I started realizing, I think fat is my friend, and carbs may be, strong word, my enemy. Not really, but there was something going on with eating fats, and so I started with avocados, and I didn't know what to do. I was doing this on my own. Yeah, and finding oils. I would eat some tallow and some lard as well. I would add that in, and I was, kind of gallant about it. And I was just throw it in anywhere. And then I started working with a dietitian from one of the groups that Dr. Palmer mentions in his book, and it was fantastic to work with. And it took it took about a year, meeting once a month, once every 2 months, to understand what are some better fats to eat. And then the question about cholesterol, triglycerides, your lipid panel. Am I just gonna fall over dead tomorrow from a heart attack because I'm eating so much? And I would get comments like that from people, which I totally get that. I didn't really like the comments, but I think I totally understood it. It was very rational. Yeah, we were brought up with the standard American diet, and sure, our cholesterol starts rising, and there's a lot of parts at play there. I'm not qualified to get into, but I enjoyed the process, and I still enjoy the process a lot. I don't get hunger pangs much. At least I did in the beginning. So for the first 2 weeks, just for people's own understanding, the first 2 weeks, something changed when I started eating high fat and reducing the carbs considerably, probably down to 50 or 40 grams a day. I felt better. Yeah, the fatigue, that was just ever present. I mean that. The brain fog, I would say many times, my brain's not working today, and that was just being part of my day-to-day parlance. Yeah, it just didn't. And and I felt better. And then for some reason, after 2 weeks, I didn't feel great anymore. And I didn't know what that was, and that's when I hired a dietitian to work with, and we just had to dial in. So, in terms of my experience, if anybody's listening, and how do I do this, and people have to do this their own way, and I have a lot of compassion for that, because we're all different, we're all an experiment of one, and you can do it, it can be done, and you have to figure it out your way. You have to be your own little scientist, and see you get a cheering section for you, and condition your mind to take a break a little bit and give it a shot. It's working for me, and I hope to stay on it. I don't really know. We'll talk about the future a little bit later in our conversation, but so I'm not sure. Where am I?
Yeah. So basically what I'm hearing is that it really resolved some of the symptoms that you were not able to otherwise address in a much more holistic way. And you mentioned that someone helped you to dial that in. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the things that you found really helpful? Like what works for you in like a quick overview of that?
Great question.
Yeah.
We started looking at ratios of fats to protein and carbs combined. There's at least 5 levels of the keto diet and levels of strictness, and we started at a 1-to-1. And so I'm with the food scale and measuring cups regularly, and I was hungry all the time because we were keeping calories at around 2,000, just as a place to start, because I wasn't exercising much at this point, and I was hungry all the time, and so we talked about that, and just let's bump it up by, maybe 500 calories was the first jump, and I started to feel a little bit more fuller I still wasn't really getting, I was getting some 25% benefit out of the diet at this point. But I was like really hopeful that there was just going to be a lot more. And as you're first starting, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what to expect. You don't know what your body's going to do. What kind of social media do I trust? And I knew the two docs who I'm speaking about regularly seem to be seminal writers on this subject and seem to be the clearest. Because there's a lot of folks who are very passionate about what they're saying, but again, I'm coming from a scientific background and reading papers. I just wasn't really trustworthy. I wasn't trusting where their information was coming from. I get that they were spirited about it, but I wasn't sure of their intention, and so I had to be careful about where I got my information from. Yeah.
I think that's super important. I can so much resonate with that, especially when, our health, I think it's already at a vulnerable place somewhat, let's say that. And it's important for us to improve it, and the whole goal of this is to optimize it, to get better. The last thing a person wants is to risk it, and I can so much resonate with that because I also, 4 years ago, I was doing something that I really was not sure about, and everyone that actually would speak about it, like I would want them to support it, but I would always have on the back of my mind, but how much of that is actually backed up? And it's not just something, like am I hurting myself by doing something so high fat wasn't, to me, was just absolutely unheard of, so I can so resonate with that, and I'm so glad that we're now at a place, 2 years later, that we have growing evidence and support in that, so people can feel more safe, because I do understand how unsettling it can be. So it's already, challenging and not knowing what to expect, and yeah, totally get it. And I think we all go through that, even nowadays, right? Like people are not sure, can they, what to expect, what side effects, like how much benefit, can they trust that it's coming if it's not there yet, the benefit, right? So that's what I'm hearing from you too. And yeah, I just want to highlight how valid it is and how I think everyone can resonate to that piece. And then, so the people that you trusted were, I guess, Chris Palmer, Georgia E.
Yeah, primarily.
Yeah.
Yes, there's many speakers. I'm not going to list other names, but there are some more of the more prominent, more well-informed speakers on the topic while we're waiting for the big clinical trials to kind of process through, and that takes time. But their foundations just made so much sense to me. And so, just to reference back when I was saying, like, finding the medicine that worked for me in terms of the pharmaceutical was a mathematical, logical kind of equation with this one doc. I started thinking, oh, well, I think this ketogenic metabolic therapy is now also a mathematical thing that I can solve this. Like, this is a problem, and it's not just so nefarious and scary and like, oh, we can dial in here. So that was very reassuring for me, to know that you make little changes, see how you do, make more changes. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I think there's a lot of road here to travel. There's a big open, massive field that we can explore. And that was very hopeful. Still going through it, you don't know. You still got to figure out each step. So, yeah. So those doctors I just like what they, and their message still holds true.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think that just resonates so much with Dr. Georgia E's main message that I love so much. It's like hope is on the menu, and it's absolutely the truth, because when we find about something that we can incorporate that's now in our charge, it's not like handing your health and well-being to someone and completely being obedient of their direction. Now there is something you can do, and that empowerment for me is the best part of it, because now I get to say and do something and experience the benefits out of it, and that comes without side effect. It doesn't, there's just so much hope and self-empowerment, and for me that has translated then from this experience to also other aspects of life, and I think it does the same for everyone. But tell me your experience. That's kind of what I'm hearing, that it felt good to be your own researcher, even if it wasn't scary and you were not sure. There was hope there, and it was up to you to do something, and there was something that was clicking, still not backed up scientifically.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that point up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you keyed right in on that. Yeah, you can do this on your own, but certainly with support. But you're not in this kind of rigid structure around taking psychiatric medications and doing what you're told, and stay on your medication. Yeah,
right.
This is
And I just want to say that I guess my take on that is nothing wrong with that if it's working for someone.
Of course.
I really want to highlight that's truly my honest stand. If it's working, great. But what if it's not?
Mm-hmm.
Now you end up, it's not working, and you have tons of side effects, and it's still not working. And so.
Yeah, I'm certainly not castigating the what we know about medicine. And if you need medicine and it works for you, you take the medicine and you figure out a way, can I taper off of this medication? How do I do that safely and effectively? And it took me many months to taper off my last medication, and it was not easy to do. Some days I'm like, I don't know how to make it through this, but then it gets better.
Can you tell a little bit more about that? Because I think that's the hardest part, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't mind sharing that. So I was talking with my doc at the time, saying, I'm going to try this way of eating and being, and gave him some specifics. He wasn't closed off about it, but he wasn't exactly open about it maybe right then and there, because he's got his license and liability and he has to protect himself, and he does care, and all that's in play, and that's true. So I decided to just stop. I tapered down, right? I was on a patch, and I got a smaller dose of the patch, and then I started snipping the patch a little bit to cut it down. Don't fire me for doing that. But eventually, I tapered down over about 6 months.
Okay.
A very long, slow taper.
What was it like?
Yeah. The medicine had stopped working, so it just made sense to start tapering for me. I wasn't stopping because it was working, and I was reading about KMT, ketogenic metabolic therapy, and thinking, forget all that. That's not where I was at.
Yeah.
No, I just decided it wasn't working. So, and this was the one class of meds that really worked for me. So I knew I had to taper off it to get on a different one. If we were going to go that route, you need to have a 2-week washout window. And so I just kept going. So over the 6 months, my health didn't really change much. The medicine just wasn't working, and so my symptoms were still present. I was still able to work, and so fortunately, I've never been hospitalized for depression and that kind of thing. And I know many people are, and I'm really sorry that people have to go through that. Yeah, that's heartbreaking. So I got to the point where I'm like, this is my last day on this medicine, because I had figured out, and that was like the end of January in this year is the last. So I had been on keto for about almost a year before I finally tapered off the medicine.
Okay, so just to confirm, basically you're saying that you did keto for the first 6 months without touching the medication, and then did
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I should have jotted this down maybe. I was like, is my math going to work out? I hope so.
That's okay,
Yeah,
I mean roughly.
It's a great question. I know that the last day I took any medicine was on like January, I think 29th of this year.
Okay.
But I got involved with the keto and the reading and the learning about it during that day when I did that 3-day fast in basically in January of 2024. So yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really look back. So as we're talking about this, now I'm looking back, and so these are very good questions.
And that's okay. Like I get it. And it's more, the fact that you didn't have to look back. Like the results are so prominent. Sounds like that. You don't need to necessarily consider is it working, is it not. It's just working, and you keep doing it. So I get that piece.
Yeah.
And First of all, congratulations. I don't think that there's that many people that are able to go through that path. It's filled with so much uncertainty. It does take courage, it does take discipline and trust, and it's a risk too. But when it works, it's so worth it that I think it's just very rewarding. To me, it feels like taking charge back of my health, feeling much better, honestly, than ever. And so knowing that this is such a then long-term investment in your health, that now is no longer, you first of all are free of medication, which again, if it was helpful, then great, but if it was not, was causing tons of side effects that populated over the course of decades for the rest of your life, unless something was done. That could be quite significant of a path towards the rest of your life, and that's not where you are at. And that's why I'm like extremely pumped about your story and your journey, because you figured it out. You came to a place where you feel best, or you feel good is what I'm hearing. I don't know if you feel better. Maybe that's a good question. How do you compare how you feel now on the ketogenic diet or metabolic therapy in place of your medication? Was one better than the other, or how would you compare?
Keto is 80% better.
Wow.
It started at like 20% better.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what's going on here. And I just was, dog with a bone. I am not stopping. Yeah, this is an opportunity, and this seems pretty real, so I'm going to give it a shot. And so that's why I involved other people. But I got to the point where my doc asked me for the name of the dietitian I was working with, because he saw the benefits. We were doing Zoom calls. He had moved out of state, so we stayed in touch, and he was still my doc, and Zoom calls. And then he asked, and that was very affirming for me. I didn't realize how much I kind of needed to hear something like that, because I was just doing me. But when he asked, like, so I explained that I got the name from Dr. Palmer's book and the index, and worked with this group and this particular dietitian. And so he's like, who is that? Because he was seeing benefits from me, and he wanted to refer to other patients. He was literally saying.
It's huge. Yeah, what a validation, and that's what we want to see in the system happening, because I think that's the only way for some unfamiliar type of intervention as this to cross that barrier with clinicians that are totally initially closed off, to see the benefits firsthand. It may not be necessarily ready and FDA approved, but can you see the results in your patients and go by that almost? Like, can you trust the outcomes that you're witnessing firsthand? And how long was this doctor you were seeing you before that?
5 years.
5 years, okay. So he knew you before, and like he was able to see the difference.
Oh yeah, he did.
And then want to help others, because I think all doctors want to help. They just don't know how, and now this is an opportunity for them to also, which is such a huge win for the field. I absolutely want to, encourage others who see those benefits to also talk to their clinicians and just help move this forward that way.
That's very inclusive. That's very warm and big picture of you, which I've always admired about you. is the way that you carry this message. And you have a very grounded and personal viewpoint of this experience. But you understand that physicians are doing what they are trained to do, and they do want to help. It doesn't always feel like that, but they do want to help. And maybe this is a way that people can start doing that. I don't know if my GP knows about, I mean, I've been saying this is what I'm doing. He's like, let's get a lipid panel. And so we do that every 6 months. And, he wanted me to take statins. And I'm just not interested in that right now. So we keep an eye on things. And the HDL triglyceride ratio looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So I haven't done the coronary artery calcium test yet, but that would be another place to go. So there are ways that that we can be healthy, but the fact that how can we change this? Well, we're doing that now. We're trying to change this conversation.
I think that's the reason why we're here, and I know that this was my experience personally, right? Like I wanted to be offered a lifestyle type of intervention because I knew when I eat right, when I exercise, I'm better. Like keto offered a whole new level of feeling good for my brain. But even before that, I always knew it, and it's just, especially in this country, I think this is the place where we are so heavily overprescribed easily, just for everything. After 10-minute consultation, you're already handed an antidepressant, and I think that really needs to change, especially for the people that want it. And I'm very clear for myself that, those who don't want it, I'm not even, who am I to mess with their decisions? But I was one of those that wanted it, and it wasn't available. And I think it's very important for me to do my best that I can to help those that are in the place that I was have access to something like that in my opinion, can be more optimal, more sustainable, and more effective, ultimately, with the side benefits in trade of side effects and negative consequences.
Yeah, completely agreed. Yeah, it sounds like your particular struggle and beginnings and where you are now, but your particular struggles are certainly unique to you, but you have such an understanding of what many of us are thinking. I feel like I can connect with you on that quite easily. I'm not sure if I'm using all the words to express that. I'm not sure right now because I'm just in the moment with you.
Yeah.
But
and then if you can summarize, just like with few words, you say keto is 80% better. Okay. What is it like?
Sure.
Like,
Great.
Your brain working right.
My brain works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, that's really, there's a lot. Yeah. Close the books. No, there's much more to it. Some of that are still like almost precognitive. Like I'm noticing some things, but I don't really know how to speak about some of the, things that are just more positive. There's like literally more light in my head. I don't know what that sounds like to people, but like depression can be pretty dark, and not just as a way of life, but like it just feels dim in my skull. Okay, so I don't have that anymore. I can see my brain making connections now. I don't have intrusive thinking. I think I have a much greater appreciation for, and a close family member of mine is always trying to say, but that's normal. Like, we'll have these conversations, and she would go on some of the Zoom calls with my psych doc, and so she was in on a lot of what's going on. And so she's like, yeah, but I think this is normal. You're having a normal human range of emotion. Those are normal things right now. Sometimes, when you're in your own head, you can't really always tell what's, is that outside, is that a little, just, is that thought a little crazy or what? And so I was realizing, so I'm like having to remap like how I understand my experiences. Like if I have a day where I don't have a lot of energy and I need to nap, and I'm not able to focus clearly on like day-to-day tasks or whatnot, it's different. I'm like, maybe I trained too hard this week, or whatever's happening, something just, you gotta take a day off and let it be. And not have this avalanche of negative thinking. Like, I don't get the avalanche anymore. I'm just getting, we have our normal range of emotions now. Me. So I don't know, that's how I would explain. So 80% better. My energy is, I can do more. I like to, exercise is immense for me. And it was one of the ways that I stayed sane through most of my life. And now now I don't feel like I'm doing it at that same level, but now it's kind of more enjoyable and I can kind of ease the pace back a little bit instead of redlining it all the time. So, but to be able to work out and regularly, what else?
It's a big deal, yeah. And speaking of this, I know you mentioned in the meetup that you were also able to adjust the ratios right now, which I think is very interesting. Do you mind sharing?
No, yeah, you're still on track. I love it. Yes. So we started on the 1-on-1, and then I started increasing calories, and then we went to a 1.5 to 1. Like, that's how a little nitty gritty I was with it. We were just trying to find a level without going to a 5 to 1, where you're eating 90 to 95% fats all day. I tried that one day. Yeah, it didn't feel too good. I don't know. So then I went to a 2 to 1, and then I went to a 2.5 to 1. Then I went to a 3 to 1. And when I went to a 3 to 1, wow, thoughts were clear. I felt lighter in my being. Thoughts were clear. I was just moving with a lot more ease, and the day-to-day was much better. I retired about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. So kind of fortunately that I'm able to explore this in depth. I know that if you're pulling a 40 or 60 hour a week, it's going to be different for you. So just to give some people some perspective, because I would appreciate hearing that too. Like, what's this guy's life about?
Absolutely.
So then I went to 3 to 1 and things were way better. In terms of my experience, the eating part, it's a little challenging to get because I was craving a lot of protein. Even as a kid, I never really craved carbs. I mean, I was just like steak and eggs. That's what I wanted for breakfast all the time. Did I eat it all the time? No, because oatmeal and cream of wheat and those kinds of things came in there, and then the cereals were in there, and so but I didn't go whole hog on them. So I was craving protein profoundly, and if you start eating a lot of protein and you're on a ketogenic ratio of more than 1 to 1, you have to eat a lot of fat to keep your macros. You gotta eat a lot of fat, and I'm trying to get up to 3,000 calories a day. So I'm still trying to figure that out right now. That's kind of where I am right now.
And when you talk about the 3 to 1 ratio, can you translate that in terms of ketone levels?
Sure.
I know people like to hear more perspective because there's still not enough clarity. Is deeper ketosis better for mental health? What your experience?
Yeah, that's I've heard you speak about that, so I have some idea of where you are with that. In my experience, so what are my ketones? Only for a couple of weeks here and there would I check every day. Most of the time I'll check a couple times a week.
Okay.
And I have some bodily sensations that I'm like, I bet you my you play this little game. Wow, what am I I would do the blood test. I did the urine strips initially, and then I was like, no, I got to dial in further. So yes, the blood test. So the ketones would come up, and I knew that I was feeling better. And they would be, they would be between 2.0 and maybe up to 4.0. It's hard to do 4.0 because you really have to be very strict with what you're eating. My brain felt better, but my body wasn't right. There's this brain-body balance.
Absolutely.
I'm still trying to kind of figure that out while my gut is still healing. So that's a whole nother piece
Yeah.
which is why I work with a dietitian who's in the gastro group. I'll have to come back and talk to you all in another 6 months and let you know what's going on there.
Yeah.
But hierarchy. So yes, the higher I did the ketogenic diet, the higher my ketones were. Yes.
The higher the ratio, the higher
The
the
higher the
ketones,
ratio.
the better the results.
Yes.
For your brain, at least.
Correct.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. My experience as well. But I also agree on that piece of just brain health that cannot exist on its own, right? Otherwise, we'll be all fasting and brain would feel great, because that's, at least for me, when I'm my sharpest, cognitively capable to a degree that I don't think otherwise I am. But we also have to watch, especially with exercise and muscle, and protect that, really. So I also wanted to ask, do you check glucose? Or
Sure.
yeah.
I check every time I check ketones. I would check glucose. I got the Keto Mojo set up.
Yeah.
I didn't start with that one, but it's pretty good, and you can Bluetooth it to your phone and get your
Yeah.
So I did both at the same time, and interestingly, the blood glucose levels they would hover around 90 to 100, sometimes 105 in the first many months of maybe the first year of keto. And then at some point, I started to level out at around 75.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a result of completing that insulin resistance piece and becoming insulin sensitive, which may take, it's a process, it just takes a while.
That's my understanding of it too. I want to read more specifics and papers on how that goes, but I mean, let's face it, doing trials with people eating are pretty difficult to do.
Sure, yeah.
For sure, but so.
And can you talk just a little bit about your sleep, and maybe its piece overall? I know, like, we talk about metabolic therapies, and obviously the ketogenic diet is that foundational piece that I think we both agree has been extremely helpful to get us better, and yet there is so much more to build on and to support it. And so I know exercise sounds like a big part of your routine. What about sleep? You talked about energy levels a little bit, but
yeah, that's a great question too. Yeah, you're so on point. Yeah, sleep is okay. I thought it would get better, and I remain hopeful. But I have decades of something happened to me overnight when I turned 41, and I just didn't never sleep well again. And I have theories about it, but I don't know. And so I've been trying to recover sleep. Tried all kinds of sleep meds and processes. Like even like if you're told if you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you should get out of bed and you should walk around. And nobody wants to get out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's pretty cozy. But there's enough evidence that it's disrupting that process can ultimately be better. So I would try and do some of those things, and they helped a little bit. I would like to sleep better. I think I average maybe 5 hours a night actual sleep time, but I'm usually horizontal for about 8. But it's not as miserable. It's not as bad. I wouldn't say I have insomnia. I could sleep better. I could sleep deeper. I'm thinking about when I was younger and able to I was gone. I didn't wake up. I mean, I'm older, so there's a certain reality check there. Gotcha. It could be better. Sleeping could be better. This is a very good question. I don't know what to do about that. That's a question for me right now.
I see. Yeah, and that's just to speak about the limitations and the differences, right? The bio-individual piece, that some people get better across the board, others benefit at some level, and like it's all putting the puzzle together and figuring out for yourself what works, and maybe further adjustments. Keto can be a wonderful strategy, a very powerful tool, but there may be more work needed to get that holistic overall health and everything in place.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I guess what I'm interested in is, have you had periods when you come out of ketosis? I'm sure probably you've had. have you noted, and what is that like for you being in and out, if you've had?
Great question also. Yes, I've been in and out of ketosis, I would say a handful of times over the past, since I've been doing this. Because, when I would get back into ketosis, I would get headaches, feel sluggish and fatigue, and I'm like, oh, so my normal symptoms are back. So, so you kind of in this not sure area again.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, this is keto flu kind of thing. And some people get keto flu, and some people do not get keto flu, and there's things you can do to moderate that, so you don't have to jump ship on that. Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't feel, I don't know. I think I didn't feel quite as good when I was out of ketosis. Living with depression and anxiety, and I think I had a bipolar 2 diagnosis at one point. You're never quite sure, like, am I depressed now, or am I just having an off day? And if it's an off day and that goes for 7 or 12 or 15 days, well, I'm having a depressive episode.
Yeah.
But you don't know in the beginning what's happening. At least that's my experience of it. Some people are probably very clear about that. And I think being out of ketosis was kind of the same kind of thing. I don't know, am I just out of ketosis, or am I like making more of this in my head? I don't have a solid answer to that, but I love to be in ketosis.
I know, that totally has been my experience. When I was doing this therapeutically, which is now 4 years ago when I started, I just didn't know much motivation, and that's why I speak to that very from experience and very confidently, because I know that when people feel the benefit, that's when you need to work, right? Like put in some effort and adjustments, which may be quite serious, but up until you get the sense of the benefits and then you get out and you see where you were, it's just not making any more sense to stay in that miserable place. It's so evident and clear that you want to feel better, and nothing tastes better than feeling good, and so you're automatically motivated to go back. And so what is your strategy to getting back on those few times when you were out?
It was no problem for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm measuring everything. I've got small, big cups, everything. If I travel, I take a scale. I take frozen foods with me. Like, I'm all in. And I think I was made for this diet in a way. Like, the motivation of knowing I'm feeling better. There are some days, where it's like, man, I want a pizza.
Yeah.
I definitely crave pizza. That doesn't go away. I think that's just part of the joy of being a human. So that kind of comes and goes. But feeling better is the ultimate motivation. Because certainly there's days I'm like, oh man, because it's very rigid where I'm at right now. And I'll figure out how to create some more freedom around that, because I plan to travel next year abroad. So how am I gonna do this? So I'll have to figure that out. But feeling better, and I do hear that certainly on the meetup group. The motivation, feel better.
Yeah, I think that's the most powerful driver ever, and it's just sustainable. It's hard to beat. And the last question that I have for you, Dave, and thank you so much for sharing so openly and honestly, and like so much insights, I think. But you just briefly touched on that. What is the future like for you in terms of your health? And I know it's like for so many of us, we're figuring it out day to day, and it may change, but where do you think you would be moving forward, or what's your plan and kind of area of experimentation, if any, with the near future, or generally, what are your thoughts on that? Where would you be with this type of intervention?
I think at first I thought, oh, I'm never gonna not be doing keto. Because I felt so much better. So you become very like clutch. Like this my everything.
Let me stay here.
I don't know if anybody has any clue what I'm doing right now. I think they do at some level, but the amount that I'm clutching, so that grip is easing just a little bit, and it is because I understand that guts can heal.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about microbiome and that kind of thing. And I would certainly like to know a lot more about that on personal levels and how that works. But we're not quite there yet, I don't think. And so, but I know that I'm experiencing less bloating and distension and fatigue and brain fog. These are my kind of core symptoms. And so I feel like something is definitely happening, like, yeah, in the gut region. And it feels like in a positive direction. So I feel like I'm counting on that. I would like to ease this up over the next 6 to 12 months somehow, so that I can get the right amount of calories that I want to get in the way and be as active as I want to be. That's where I want to be. And I think I can get there, but it's just, my process is just, yeah, it's very kind of dialed in. So I've already started to increase my protein, and I felt the strength come back. Just for those of you who are in the gym and you're struggling, if you're on keto, yeah, I found that it's hard to reach those top gears where you're really going full through emotion in the gym, or if you're running or riding or swimming, just can't really, yeah, it's sluggish. And so I'm feeling some strength come back as I've increased my protein, yeah, up to, I'm at, I don't know, 120, 130 grams a day. I know some people go a lot higher, but I feel better, and my performance is better. So that's, wow, what a bomb. And in my brain, that's just a wonderful thing. So going forward, goodness, I think as things continue to heal, that is my hope, and that is also my experience, that I'll be able to have some freedom around this, to not be as awkward socially when we go out to eat, or and by saying travel, I don't mean just like internationally or even regionally, but just like, yeah, a couple nights, a long weekend away, like how to do that. Keto forever, I mean, yeah, it's like a pulpit, kind of thing to project, but yeah, it would be nice to, I kind of want to get to where you are. Yeah, and thank you.
And I think it's possible for everyone, and I see what you're describing, this trend with staying on it therapeutically, gaining those initial benefits, tapping into your metabolic flexibility capacities, and then utilizing that more often. I think our bodies learn, and now it's been, for me, I keep surprising myself how quickly I can get back into ketosis just by maintaining low carb for the majority of the time, and like whole foods, and using all the pillars of metabolic health. And I absolutely think it's possible. I mean, I'm certainly living it, so I would love to see, where that journey goes, and for how long, and how flexible exactly. But so far, it's pretty convincing, and it allows so much freedom to retain those benefits. For me, keto is always going to be top of the line in terms of cognition and brain health. But now I'm more about that. I really needed to take care of that, and I feel like I did. So now I can relax it and look at the overall picture, exactly considering those things like traveling, social events, which I was ready to be keto and live a absolutely happy life and never complain about it. But I think I'm just stretching that and making it even more relaxed and easier to enjoy, and yeah. So with that, I just want to say thank you again for your time, for your share, for the insights. I think this was really, really helpful, and hopefully people will find value in it. And I would love to check in a certain period of time and see where you're going with this journey. But I think you're one of the inspiring stories of people that were able to trust their guts, do something brave that works, feel better, which is the greatest gift we can ever give to ourselves, to our families, to the world also. And so thank you for being that for others, so they can see it. It's possible for them, hopefully, too. And yeah, let's see where we go with it.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Donica. Thank you. Most gracious. so easy to relate to, and thank you for keeping me on track as I related my particular story. And as a family member said, this is not a quick fix, this is a real fix. And I have a little post-it note in my kitchen, taped, and I look at that and remind myself, this is like something. This is real. This is really happening. I'm not nowhere near miserable the way I was. And that's so. Be hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.